In tonight's Fact or Fiction, we're looking into a picture that is going around on Sunday's confrontation at the border. You probably saw this. A widely seen photo claims to show a migrant mother and her children running away from a tear gas canister fired by Border Patrol agents. Well, soon after that photo came out, some websites claimed it was just staged as a hoax. One even published this marked up photo showing what it called proof that the image was a fake. But that's not true. This picture is real. The photo was taken Sunday by Reuters photographer Kim Young-hoon. He also took a second photo moments later of the woman's daughter crying after the frightening experience. We'll be right back.
5, could tensions at the border ruin your vacation plans?
The border was shut down last weekend after migrants rushed a border crossing in Tijuana. So tonight we're asking you, would you know what to do if the border closed and you were stuck on the other side? Team 12's Jen Wall tells us what to do if you become stranded in Mexico.
Due to the current situation, the San Diego border entry is now closed.
It was the scenario border agents had been training for since the migrant caravan began making its way through Mexico.
Pedestrians requested to be processed need to relocate.
The busiest port of entry in the country shut down, with potentially hundreds of crossers, including U.S. citizens, turned away and told to go to another port. The president took to Twitter Monday, threatening to shut down the border permanently.
And that's something that would worry me and probably give my mom a heart attack.
The closure in California proved that shutting down of a port of entry from Mexico into the U.S. is very real. So what should you do if you find yourself stuck in Mexico, like after a weekend visit to Rocky Point or even just across the border for a day trip in Nogales? The first thing you need to know is if the border closes, no one can pass until it reopens, including U.S. citizens. Second, check before you get to the crossing. Border Patrol says to download their phone app or follow their Twitter accounts for updates on delays and port closures. Third, make sure you have all of your valid travel documents. Visit cbp.gov for Know Before You Go to get a list. Finally, there's no way to know how long a border location could be closed, so have a backup route, including options like entering at a different port or waiting in Mexico until the U.S. reopens.
Once you cross a point over there, it is dangerous.
As for whether or not you should even risk it and keep your Rocky Point beach plans, Border Patrol says that's an individual decision, but make sure to visit the State Department website for the latest travel alerts. In Phoenix, Jen Wall.
Papá, mire que vivimos, así mira. Voy a ver si podemos ayudarles. Si los pasamos, les voy a ayudar. Les va a cambiar la vida. Usted sabe que allá, si ellos allá no pueden trabajo, ellos trabajaban y me iban a mandar dinero para que sea su casita. Y ellos sí, ya estaban diciendo que ellos iban a ir, pero yo nunca le creía que se iban a ir, pues. Y salieron a Caravan y ellos se fueron, sin a decirme yo, pues ellos salieron.
Well, Democrats are gearing up for a shutdown showdown over President Trump's border wall, refusing to budge on that $5 billion price tag.
And some Republicans met with the president at the White House yesterday to discuss a deal before funding runs out next week. Congresswoman Liz Cheney was in that meeting, and she's here to tell us what she can. Good morning to you, Congresswoman.
Good morning.
Good morning, guys. Great to be with you.
Okay, so we know that the House has, passed a bill. $5 billion, but then you've got that other chamber, the Senate, and you got Chuck Schumer saying, we think $1.6 billion is enough money, and that's not enough for the president, is it?
No, it's not enough for the country. I mean, the president's been very clear. We've got to have $5 billion for border security. Obviously, the wall is a part of that. And the Democrats have got a very tough situation they're in, because you see what's happening at the border. You see the extent to which you've got this caravan of people that, the Democrats would like people to believe that they're legitimate asylum seekers, but legitimate asylum seekers don't attack border guards. They don't throw rocks and bricks and projectiles and rush the border. And so I think you've got a situation situation where every day on the news now we're seeing how crucially important it is that we make sure that we beef up security on our border. And the president is not willing to give on this. He's been very firm, and we've got to get the $5 billion.
All right, so president's firm on $5 billion. Some of the headlines this morning are Trump tells Washington Post he's considering a plan B for the wall. Did he talk about that in the meeting? Did he say what his plan B would be?
No, the plan is we've got to get $5 billion for the wall. And, you know, we're in a situation now where we've actually provided funding for our military. We've provided funding for labor and HHS in the same appropriations bill. That's been completed. That's been signed. And the president's been clear that he's willing to shut down the government if we don't get this $5 billion. And, you know, the Democrats, as I said, they're in a tough spot. They want to abolish ICE. They want to have open borders. The American people are watching the kind of crime that would result in terms of the people flooding across our border. And the president's exactly right. The House Republicans are with him. We've got to make sure that we secure the border.
Exit question, 30 seconds. So the president did say yesterday he is willing to shut down the government over this?
He did, and he said that publicly as well. But it's crucially important. One of the most sacred obligations we all have as elected officials, and that he has, is to protect this nation, to secure the border, and he's going to make sure that gets done.
All right.
Congresswoman, thank you so much for being with us.
Thank you, guys.
Immigration officials are moving forward with deporting an undocumented immigrant from Wake County out of the country. Tonight, Representatives Price and Butterfield say the Department of Homeland Security denied his request for deferred deportation. Samuel Oliver Bruno lived in sanctuary at a church in Durham for nearly a year. He's originally from Mexico, but has lived in the U.S. with his wife and son. On Friday, he left the church for a fingerprinting appointment at the immigration office in Morrisville. ICE agents detained him there. This morning, supporters gathered at the Wake County Jail where he spent the weekend. A spokesman for ICE says the agency has not scheduled his deportation.
He knew the risk. Everyone knew the risk. But honestly, we were expecting better from ICE.
ICE says Oliver Bruno was convicted in 2014 of trying to enter the U.S. using fraudulent identity documents.
Seen in Chris, it's the law of unintended consequences in action. All of this razor wire and the military here that is intended to keep Central American migrants away from the border may be scaring regular Americans away. Just south of the border wall, newly adorned with razor wire, you'll find one of Nogales, Sonora's main shopping plazas.
And I have the sterling silver from Tasco, Mexico.
Knick-knack shops and dental offices line the walkway, but something is missing today.
This pathway is pretty much full all the time, and right now, as you can see, it's just empty.
Jesus Quevedo works in a dental office. He says the action taking place on the north side of the border is scaring away his American customers.
First question in mind when they call us and actually schedule an appointment is, what's the situation with the border crossing?
You'll hear the same complaint from Alejandro Esquivel, who runs a nearby curio shop. Do you think it's also scaring Americans from coming?
Well, they are scaring America from coming because they watch military and more immigration people, so they was wondering, they guess what is going on, what happened.
What you will not find in Nogales, Sonora today are many tourists or members of the migrant caravan. We asked all over town. Back in the plaza, we did find one American who came from Washington State just to see a dentist. And she says it was well worth any hassle it took.
I noticed the razor wire that's up. Didn't cause me any concern though. And everybody's been pretty darn friendly here.
So at this point, we are told that the migrants from the migrant caravan are getting on buses in Hermosillo and cutting through Sonora, heading west to Tijuana. And there's no indication at this point that that is going to change. Chris, Scene, back to you guys.
Well, Morgan, have you been able to talk to any of the soldiers or any of the Border Patrol agents and ask them if they feel like all this hard work that they're doing, do they think it's doing any good?
Yeah, it's hard to get a real answer to that question, but we have certainly tried. I can tell you this, that these men and women in uniform, whether they're customs agents or whether they're in the military, say they're showing up every day and they're doing their job. They're doing what they are told to do, regardless of whether the caravan comes here or not. Seen and Chris, at first glance, it looks like business as usual. But between the razor wire, the U.S. Army troops working on the border fence, and what's happening behind the scenes, you have to conclude that these are extraordinary times down here. Tuesday started like any other day at the Dennis DeConcini port of entry in Nogales. Traffic heading into Mexico and traffic heading into the U.S. Cargo containers, razor wire, and Jersey barriers are pre-positioned just in case the migrant caravan veers north and ends up here. CBP officials say they've been running drills behind the scenes. Their action plan includes closing lanes in the ports of entry, closing the border, and bringing in additional agents as well as the military. All of them have been standing by for a couple of weeks. East and west of the port, soldiers from Texas spent another day climbing ladders to string up razor wire on the border fence and standing post in their Humvees at specific locations along the border. Customs and Border Protection officials tell us they have two goals right now. One of them, harden the border in case that migrant caravan heads this way, and the other one is to allow this flow of traffic, commerce, and tourists to travel north and south through our legal ports of entry. And those two goals don't always go together seamlessly. Chris and Scene, back to you.
And that is important for our state's economy. Morgan, you've got so many contacts down there in Nogales. You've been talking to border security officials today. Is there any indication, any intel at all that anybody from that caravan possibly could be heading to our Arizona border?
Yeah, no indication that any of them are heading here right now. I've spoken to local and federal law enforcement officials as well as business people who do business deep down in Mexico. They say that the migrant caravan, the folks are arriving in the Hermosillo area and getting on buses and heading from there straight over to Tijuana, so completely bypassing Arizona. That is the status at this point. It could change, as we know. Chris, Scene, back to you.
As the migrant caravan continues to be a heated topic here in our country, a local Honduran mother fighting to get her asylum case reopened. Vicky Chavez came to the United States with her daughter in 2014 to escape domestic violence and civil unrest. She sought sanctuary at the First Unitarian Church in January to avoid deportation, but her case was denied in July. ABC4's Rosie Nguyen caught up with her to find out where her case stands today.
For Vicky Chavez and her daughter, each day in sanctuary at First Unitarian Church is a waiting game. After her asylum case was denied in July, she appealed to the 10th Circuit Court, hoping to get her deportation order reversed. She says it could take as long as 5 years before a judge will hear her case.
Mi niña llorando, le decía, perdóname por llevarte a Honduras, no puedo, pero dije yo, no puedo llevar a mi niña a Honduras, no puedo llevarla a un lugar donde está mucha violencia, mucha delincuencia, donde estamos amenazadas de muerte.
Although she's limited to the church's boundaries, she's thankful to have even made it this far, because it breaks her heart to see border agents tear gas members of the migrant caravan.
Son personas que no saben lo que uno está sufriendo en nuestros países. Son personas que nunca les ha faltado un bocado de comida y son personas que no tienen que andarse escondiendo de maras o de personas de que llegan y te matan.
Refugee and immigrant advocates say the United States should be a place that helps those escaping oppression and prosecution.
I think what we have seen the last couple days at our border between Mexico and the United States, it is inhumane. The way that these individuals, especially women and children, have been treated, that creates more trauma.
Chavez can only wait to see what the fate of asylum seekers like her will be in the next several years.
Es difícil, pero nunca hay que perder la fe y hay que intentarlo, porque si no intentamos no sabemos hasta dónde podemos llegar.
Reporting in Salt Lake City, Rosie Nguyen, ABC4 News.
In a statement to ABC4 News, immigration officials say, quote, "The reality is that our asylum system is being exploited by those simply seeking economic opportunity, not those fleeing persecution, exacerbating crisis after crisis at our southern border," end quote. For the full response, just head over to our website, abc4.com.